everyone. Welcome to Tutor Training with LFC. We're so excited to have you here, whether you're a returning tutor or whether you're joining us for the first time. Yeah, my name's Emma. I'm one of the co-presidents this year. Super excited to be here. We're so thankful to have you. Also, whether you're watching this video because you weren't able to make it to our in-person training in September, or if you joined later throughout the year, or maybe you came to our in-person training and you just want to brush up on some of the stuff that we talked about. Either way, that's completely fine. Super excited to have you on the team. So basically, I'm just going to be giving an overview of LFC in general, the different initiatives that we've got going on, and what your role will be as a tutor with us. Again, we're so thankful that you decided to join, and we hope that we can make this an awesome experience for you. Just a few things about what our mission is before we jump right into it. So obviously we're here to enrich the learning of students at U Ottawa through our affordable tutoring services. We want to give high achieving students such as yourselves the opportunity to become a tutor, and it's also a way to consolidate your own knowledge from courses that you've taken or are currently taken. And obviously we're here to support a great cause in the process. So for those of you who don't know, the main goal of providing our tutoring services, other than supporting students within U Ottawa and outside of U Ottawa, is to raise money for GEO to go towards pediatric research. So we're super excited to be back again this year doing that. So yeah, just to kind of break down two main components of tutoring. So tutors obviously is you guys. So you guys are there to adapt to the teaching needs of students, and help them essentially prepare for independent study, give them strategies for self-study, basically anything that you would expect from a tutoring session for yourself if you were struggling to understand something. And then obviously we have two T's, so those will be our clients, the students being tutored. They can be from literally anywhere. For the most part, we see students seeking help from within U Ottawa. We're also branching out to a couple other universities in Ontario right now, as well as slowly starting to expand into high school, which is super exciting. Just a quick comment on that point is that if you decide to do in-person tutoring, which I'll get into a little bit later, we ask that you just do it with U Ottawa students on our campus, just to ensure your safety and their safety. But yeah, basically just a quick breakdown of that. Then if you're returning from last year, I just wanted to highlight a couple changes that we've implemented. So obviously, as I mentioned, we're doing a return to in-person tutoring, which is super exciting. You guys will absolutely still have the option to do virtual tutoring if that's what you prefer. So we just want to kind of throw that out there, give you guys the option to do whatever you're comfortable with. You can decide that together with the 2T. We also wanted to give you guys the opportunity to sit in on the first 10 minutes of our executive board meetings, just if you have any ideas that you want to share, or concerns, questions, anything like that that can't be answered in this video. You're absolutely welcome to join us in the first 10 minutes of our executive board meetings. We just want to make everyone's voices feel heard as much as possible. It's completely optional, like I said, so don't feel pressure to come. It's just really if you have something that you want to share, we'd love to hear your ideas. Again, not necessarily new compared to last year, but we're still doing e-transfers as the only form of payment for sessions. 2Ts will have to pay at the end of each session directly to our email address, which I'll get into a little bit more after. Again, this year logistics is retired, so we used to have a team that would match 2T requests with you guys. But now all tutor requests will go directly to you, to your U Ottawa email accounts. So just keep an eye out on your inboxes for a request. And we also have our mentorship initiative that's continuing on, just to increase peer-to-peer support. Any of you guys can apply anytime. I'll get into mentorship a little bit more, just wanted to introduce it on this slide. Okay, basically from start to finish, just to break down the process of what it is to tutor with us. So like I mentioned, 2Ts will email you directly asking for a request, essentially for a tutoring session. Your emails will be available on the LFC website for tutors to contact you, just so that you're available, just so that you're aware. Those emails will be available to the public. Then you will respond if you're wanting to accept or decline the request. Set up a time basically to meet together, a location, whether it's going to be virtual or not. Send them a reminder email the day before, and make sure that you're continuing to check your email kind of soon before the session, just in case something else came up. By the way, we're not leaving you kind of on your own to know how to communicate back and forth with tutees. We do have a series of email templates that are there to guide you. Feel free to use them, edit them, make it your own, but they do contain a lot of useful information that we do want the tutees to have access to, so that they know kind of what to expect for tutoring session with LFC. Next, as soon as you're done with your tutoring, this is super crucial, is to fill out the sign-off form just to inform us that you've done a session with them. This is really the only way that we know how many sessions that we've been able to provide, so that we can expect kind of an accurate number of how many donations that we should be receiving. And then just ask them to send the e-transfer of $12 an hour directly to our email after the session. We'll break this down a little bit further later on, just to give you kind of a general overview. But yeah, so the e-transfers go directly to our email, like I said, learningforcharity@gmail.com. This shouldn't be the case, but if they require a question and answer, just ask them to write what it says on the slide there. What's the name of this club? And then LFC 123 is the answer. Hopefully, hopefully you don't need that. I don't think we've needed it in the past, but just in case, so it's there. A couple other points to touch on. Please make sure that you're checking your email daily. In the event of an emergency, if you can't make a date last minute, just email LFC to let us know, as well as the tutee, obviously, to keep them in the loop. Same as said for tutees. Obviously, we can't hold someone to a tutoring session if an emergency comes up. And then just to be mindful of your time, if the tutee kind of no shows and it's been 15 minutes and they haven't canceled you, and or they haven't contacted you to cancel, and you're refreshing your email, it's been 15 minutes, then the session is canceled, just to be mindful of your time, like I said. Another situation, if you're in a tutoring session and the tutee refuses to pay for whatever reason, just try your best to convince them. Obviously, we're doing this for an awesome cause. Remind them that the payment is a donation to CHIO. If they still refuse, just please let us know, and we'll consider banning them from our tutoring services. We haven't really had to do this much, but it's not your responsibility. Just reach out to us for help, and we'll be there to support you. Okay, just continuing on with this list. If for whatever reason the tutee is super unsatisfied with a session and decides to leave out of frustration, try to understand what went wrong and apply that to your next sessions as a tutor. Try to propose a proportional payment if they left early, just based on how long they did stay for and how much of your time you did put in. And then in that kind of situation, no payment would be a very last resort. So like I said, just do your best to explain that the money is going to CHIO and that it's a great cause. If you have an emergency during the session, anything comes up, please do leave and tend to that emergency. You can charge a proportional payment or waive the fee. It's up to you, up to your judgment, depending on how long you guys got into the session before you had to leave. Explain the emergency to the tutor in as much or as little detail as you feel comfortable sharing, and then just send us an email to let us know that you had to leave. If you made it pretty deep into the session, it's been quite a long time, and you think a proportional fee is reasonable, but you don't have time to charge them, just send them a follow-up email afterwards, just to make sure that they ultimately do pay if you think that's reasonable. And just a few housekeeping points in terms of code of conducts. These are some really important points that I want to emphasize. So we absolutely do not support sharing of past midterms and assignments. Of course, if you have access to your own past midterms and assignments, you can use them to kind of guide where you want to take the session and prepare ahead of time, but absolutely do not share them with students. If you're using midterms, past midterms as a study tool, they need to be obtained directly from the prof to that student, so that you know that it's an approved study resource. Ideally, you won't be working directly off of those, and you should be working on like general concepts, homework questions, and stuff like that instead. Similarly, we ask that you help tutees with their assignments. For example, if you're tutoring them on a lab report, do not do it for them. I feel like that's obvious. You be the judge of where you draw the line. Just know that we absolutely don't support sharing of past tests or you doing their work for them. That's, yeah. Next, we might be moving away from this a little bit, but obviously during COVID, we had a lot of take-home exams and online stuff. So if you're ever offering a tutoring session to a student who's in an online class, absolutely never have contact with them, please, during their take-home exams, midterms, finals, whatever it is. That's considered academic fraud. Obviously, we don't support that. And then just to keep in mind that we're a friend first, tutor second. So it's crazy how far empathy can go to motivate a tutee. Offer them support, obviously, as much as you can. And if you find that the person is struggling, maybe beyond academics, you can suggest that they join our mentoring initiative as well. So yeah, just do your best to be supportive. Okay. So a link to this master availabilities doc has been shared with you if you're watching this video. Basically, you can use the links that are in the slides to see kind of an example of how to fill it out. And then the real public document is the one that's published on our website. And essentially, it just allows you to put down your contact information and indicate which types of classes that you are able to provide tutoring for, and then kind of a general idea of what your availability is like throughout the week. This is available to the public on our website, so just be mindful of what you're willing to share about yourself publicly. You can edit it at any time, but basically this is what students who are looking for a tutor will go to when they're looking for a tutor, and they'll select you basically based on your availability and if the classes that you're offering suit kind of what they're looking for. So they'll find your contact information on there and email you directly. We also have like labels that we use in the master availabilities document just to keep things tidy and clean, and it just helps communicate different things if you need to take a break, for example. So if you're having a really busy week, or you just want to step back from tutoring for a while, or if you've got a regular student or regular students that you're tutoring and you aren't able to take on anymore, absolutely, that's completely fine. We ask that you just put away before your name throughout the document. You can take it off once you're free again if you want to. It just indicates for people not to contact you asking for new sessions. Similarly, if you haven't tutored at all and you really want the chance to be able to offer some tutoring sessions, and it's kind of reaching the third month of the semester, we're kind of creeping over to the end, just write top next to your name. Kind of tells people that you haven't had the chance to tutor yet, and hopefully they'll reach out to you first. Just keep in mind, please, that some classes really just aren't as popular for tutors, or for tutoring, sorry. We've noticed, for example, AMP, bio, some of those courses people just aren't looking for. So if you haven't heard from anyone, it's not personal. That just could be because you put yourself for some courses that are less popular in terms of requiring a tutor. Just another small point, I don't think we've run into this issue before, but just if you notice that someone else in the document has the exact same name as you, try and find a professional, creative way to distinguish yourselves, just to reduce confusion related to that. So I touched on this a little bit earlier. I just wanted to add in an extra slide to emphasize it because this is such a crucial step of tutoring with us. So in the last couple minutes of each tutoring session, we ask that you use that link to submit our Google form, just to let us know that a tutoring session took place and for how long, and if you both were satisfied with how the session went. Yeah, so it's your responsibility basically to make sure that everything's filled out, but you can go through it with the tutee to make sure that everything's accurate. If you think you made a mistake in it, please don't submit it again, because then it kind of looks like you did 2 sessions that day, but you can go back and edit it. But yeah, essentially it just helps us confirm that we've received payment and gives us some insight into what classes are being tutored so that we can help balance the supply and demand. So don't forget the sign off form. Okay, so this is another link that would have been shared with you. It's basically just a list of all the documents that I've mentioned so far throughout this document, just kind of neatly compiled into one place. Feel free to bookmark or save that link, but that one can be super helpful. So that's it for an overview of kind of like your tasks as a tutor. Next, I just wanted to touch on different initiatives and stuff that we've got going on within LFC in case you are interested. And we'll get into more specific tips for how to be an effective tutor later on in the video. So as I mentioned, we have a mentorship initiative. It's completely free to join. So essentially we run groups of 8 to 10 people, all with similar interests. So we'll kind of group you together based on if you're like extroverted, a little bit more reserved, what you're into, whether or not you're a tutor or a non-tutor, just kind of looking for a social activity, a way to get to know people. So for tutors, it can be an awesome way to just discuss tutoring and get tips from other experienced tutors who've been with our club for a long time. And for non-tutors, like I said, it's a place to socialize, learn about other things that are going on within school that you might not be aware of, and just gives you an opportunity to connect with people. Just as a quick warning, we do like an initial push of promotion for this initiative early on in the school year, and that's around the time when we form the groups. Anyone is welcome to join throughout the year, but if you're joining after September, it's likely that you'll be joining an existing group instead of being placed into a group right from the beginning. But either way is fine, just to let you know. So essentially we started it quite recently, just because the pandemic made it a lot harder for people, especially first year students, to meet new people and get to know each other. So we just wanted to offer something free with no judgment, just to check in and chat and make sure everyone's having fun. So we do hold weekly meetings, and then those are just kind of like to touch base, see how things are going. And we also have the longer group hangouts every 2 to 3 weeks, just depending on what the group decides that they want to do. They're all led by experienced mentors of U Ottawa, who can definitely help answer questions and just like lead social activities. We super strongly recommend this for first year students, but obviously, like I said, anyone can join, whether you're a tutor or you're just looking for something to do to get to know people. There's a link to the application form right there in the slide. Another thing that we offer, obviously similarly to the tutoring that we just spent a while discussing, but we do have group tutoring as well. Basically, it's just a way for people, just it encourages discussion more, we find, and it's cheaper for the tutees. So essentially, if you decide that you're interested in doing group tutoring, just be prepared to collect payment from each of the people who show up to start discussions, ask students questions, have your tutoring skills challenged if you're not used to doing group tutoring sessions. And there's a link to more information that's just directly on our website under the group tutoring tab at learningforcharity.ca. And we just included this chart here just to help you guide for pricing, because it is a little bit different than just the one-on-ones. So yeah, you can use this. Basically, the number of tutees that actually show up to the session is what you should base yourself on. And not the people who reach out saying that they intend to come. So just make sure that you base the pricing off whoever actually shows up. Another thing that we do is we hold a lot of events throughout the year. We're always looking for people to help out. If you want a way to get involved further with LFC and volunteer your time, obviously we'll offer you volunteer hours for any work that you put into events or anything else with LFC. And yeah, we'll be releasing more details about what events we plan on holding as we know more about them throughout the semester in collaboration with our VP of events. And since I just touched on volunteer hours, we'll get into that. So we are in partnership with the Michael Jean Center for Community Engagement through U Ottawa. It's a way for you to officially log your hours. So any work that you do for LFC, we absolutely want to give you credit for, whether it's an event, like we said, or tutoring, or any other way that you're volunteering. We'll send you more information about when a placement becomes available. So in the meantime, we ask that you please log your hours yourself. We do keep records of all the sessions that are offered and by which tutor, so we can absolutely verify your input and accept your hours at the end of each semester. But seriously, we do want to give you credit for everything that you do for our club. So don't be shy. So this is just an example of different things that we absolutely want you to log in the volunteer hour tracker if you're interested. So tutoring, that includes any time you spent actually during your tutoring session, time you spent organizing the session, so planning, like communicating back and forth with the tutee, brushing up on your own notes to make sure that you're prepared, dealing with technical difficulties. So usually we can account for like an additional 30-minute surplus on top of the actual time that you spent tutoring. Also any meetings that you attend or training, including this training today and the mandatory quiz that you'll take afterwards, just to make sure everything's clear. Any time you spent promoting our initiative, if you're interested in that. Like I said, reviewing material for tutoring purposes, not necessarily studying for your own tests, but if you are really brushing up to help a tutee, then that's great. Please log that. Any work with events. The only thing that we don't approve hours for is involvement in mentorship as a mentee. So unless your involvement with mentorship is as a mentor, then you can't log hours. Okay, now just to jump back to tutoring, just a few general tips for anyone who wants to improve their skills or who's joining for the first time and isn't really sure what to expect. So yeah, essentially we have tips for you to be the best tutor that you can be if you're new, or if you're just looking to improve your skills. Okay, tip number one, seems maybe obvious, but plan ahead. Communicate with the student to determine kind of what content that they're hoping to look over. Make a checklist of different topics that you want to cover in order from most to least important, just to make sure that you don't miss anything important. Gather everything that you need ahead of time. For example, like textbooks, notes, that kind of thing, so that you can be organized. And you might also want to contact the tutee before the session to make sure that they've got all the materials that they need. Just expanding a little bit on a gathering of materials. So you might need to use a textbook to go through notes. If you've taken the course in the past, obviously don't go out and buy a textbook just to tutor, but if you have access to the textbook, that's awesome. The internet is your friend, just for additional information that might not be stated in your own class notes or textbook or anything that you want to brush up on. Tests and exams. So again, I say this with caution. So if you have your own personal tests and exams, you can use them as guidelines to plan what general concepts you think are the most important to address in a tutoring session to help someone else understand. But please do not share them with the tutees. Again, don't use any past tests or exams that haven't been approved directly by their prof as an appropriate study resource. But you can go over past tests and exams if the professor directly provided them. Tip number 3, planning your session. So just making your way through a general tutoring session. This is kind of a format that you can follow if you like. So just make sure to introduce yourself, what objectives that you have for the session, and then even more importantly, to ask the student what their goals are for the session, what they're looking to achieve, what information they want to leave with. Next is actually just getting into helping them. So reviewing content that you prepared ahead of time, doing practice questions. Textbooks often have really good practice questions throughout them. And just make sure that you're assessing kind of the skills of the student and whether or not they're understanding, just to make sure that everything you're saying is clear. Keep a positive attitude, provide constructive criticism, and really just try your best to be supportive. Everyone learns differently. Everyone learns at a different pace. And then just make sure that you have a quick discussion at the end, so that you can talk about what steps that you guys took to help them understand the material, what worked, what didn't work, and just anything else that you can improve for next time, or just any kind of feedback that they can provide you. Then just expanding on discussion. So as I mentioned earlier, there are different types of learners. So for a visual learner, you might want to talk about use of diagrams, pictures, spatial examples, just to help them understand the material. Some people learn best by having you just say it to them out loud. Repetition is usually super helpful for this. And then verbal learning. So after you've kind of gone over a concept, let them teach it back to you to make sure that they understood and to help them kind of consolidate that information. A big tip is really to let the tutee direct the session. So they'll let you know what they're struggling with, and you can address that and take it from there. And then just make sure you check in with them to make sure that they're ready to move on, or if they have any questions before you skip over to something else. And that's super useful for a lot of people because it gives them a sense of control that they might not have in the classroom with 100 other people. Just a couple extra tips. Some of these might seem a little bit intuitive, but just make sure that you understand the material and that you're coming prepared. Obviously, if you're offering to tutor a class, it's because you excelled in it in the past. Don't be shy. If you don't know the answer to a tricky question, that's completely fine. It happens. Just be calm, confident, and let them know that you'll reach back out to them. If you're able to do some side research after the session and get back to them, obviously log hours for that too. Be punctual. That's super important for establishing trust and a good relationship with the tutee. Ask leading questions to boost their confidence, and just try to figure out as soon as possible what part of the course that they're struggling with, whether it's like memorization tricks, specific concepts, a specific unit, and really base your tutoring based off of what you learned when you took the course, or if you're taking it currently. Try and think of things that would have maybe helped you understand better if someone had told you. We just like to throw this in here. It's just a quick checklist. You can go through this with the tutee, or just really reflect on your own after a session to improve your tutoring. Yeah, just so that you can self-reflect and improve for next time. Just some key points that are really important for a good tutoring session. So obviously, like I mentioned, we're offering online and in-person tutoring. So we're going to talk about some online setups first, if that's the format that you're deciding to go with. So a few must-haves. It's really, really important to have access to a video camera, like a webcam, and audio, so that the person can put a face to the voice that's talking to them. We also require a live visual aid, so just something that they can see that you're working on while you teach. We'll give some examples of that in the next couple slides. We also really encourage you to provide them with reviewable notes. Obviously, one of the main goals of tutoring is to help with self-guided study afterwards. So it's really important that they have something to review and study after your session, so they can keep working on what you guys worked on together. And just make sure that the tutee has a way to ask you questions live, whether they're just saying it out loud and you're on Zoom, or if they're messaging it to you on the side while you're talking. Just make sure that you've got something. Just to touch on this super quickly, if you don't have access to a computer with a webcam and you need one, the SSA has some awesome resources to help you obtain access to those things. So please check out those links. They're super helpful if you're requiring that. Also, just to touch on supplementary features, obviously these things aren't required of you, but if you have them and you're willing to use them for tutoring, that's great. Some people do like to use a digital pen where you're kind of writing on a touch screen and you have a way to share your screen with the tutee, a pointer to help you draw attention to something specific that you're talking about, or just even as simple as allowing the tutee to screen share a view to communicate questions more effectively. So now we have a couple strategies on here of like setups of what you can do for virtual tutoring. So the one that we recommend the most is Zoom plus Google Docs, which is usually the easiest. With Zoom, when you're doing a one-on-one session, it's super convenient because there's no time limit on the free version. So having Zoom allows you to basically see each other and hear each other. And then if you have a separate Google Doc going on the side that's shared with one another, you can type as you go. And it's also producing a visual aid that they can keep afterwards if they want to review what you guys talked about during the session. It's also a great way for visual learners because you can drag and drop images into the Google Doc as needed. The next strategy that you can use is Zoom with a pen and paper or any other kind of video conferencing app. This one might be a little bit trickier just because it can be hard to kind of hold your phone while you're writing on your paper to show them at the same time, but whatever works for you, if you're more comfortable that way, that's perfectly fine. And yeah, also this way is super convenient usually for sharing your notes afterwards because you can just take pictures of the notes that you've written on paper and send it to the tutee after your appointment. Next, just moving on, we're getting really close to the end. Thanks for sticking with me. Just a couple comments on in-person tutoring. So obviously safety is our absolute #1 priority that goes for you and the tutee. So we ask that all in-person tutoring occur on campus. Please don't tutor someone at your house or at their house just for safety reasons. And if you're providing in-person tutoring, we ask that it be between you and another U Ottawa student, again, for safety. Just make sure that you're keeping up to date with U Ottawa's COVID policies. I know they're changing a lot, but we've got a link there that should be updating as we get more information on what's going on this school year. And again, we don't accept cash payments regardless of whether your session is virtual or in person. Please still complete the tutor sign-off form and have them send you an e-transfer on the spot at the end of your session. Finally, just a few additional tips for tutoring in general, whether it's in person or online. Try to make small talk with your tutee. It just helps build a rapport and makes it more comfortable to interact with them. Provide emotional support to the best of your abilities. Again, you can suggest the mentorship program if they're struggling non-academically. And take it easy. You can expect some delays sometimes in communication, so just try your best to be patient and flexible. Be willing to ask questions like, would you like to move on? Do you have any questions if needed throughout your tutoring session, just as opposed to moving on? So yeah, try your best to be patient with people. Everyone learns at a different rate and in different ways. So that's it for the presentation. I hope this was helpful. Again, we're super thankful to have you guys on the team. I've been with LFC pretty much throughout my entire undergrad, and I've been lucky to have many positions throughout the club. So I'm always available to answer questions. This has been a super, super rewarding experience for me. So I hope that we can offer that to you guys as well. And we're also really excited to hopefully offer some more social activities for our tutors to make you guys feel more involved in what we're doing. So if you have any questions, concerns, anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out.